I was doing some research, and somebody had asked how true is Anand Neelakantan's version of Ramayana and Mahabharata. And I noticed that your books are published as fiction. The genre is fiction. So tell us about that. What is the process? What is the thinking behind that?
See, how true depends on which Ramayana you are basing. There are so many Ramayanas and there are so many Mahabharatas. Different parts of the country at different times, different centuries, different decades have produced different Ramayanas and Mahabharatas. So whatever I am writing, it is there in some Ramayana or other. Only thing which I did was to stitch together many of the narratives to show a point of view. So if all these stories are fiction, this is also a fiction. There is nothing like I'm not writing something which happened, or we are not even sure whether it happened or not. No?
Correct.
It is a cultural thing. It's a cultural narrative. It's an epic. People are free to believe it happened. People are free to believe it didn't happen. It doesn't matter. Either way, we don't have any proof. So what it is, a lot of people believe it happened, and I also believe certain things, at least if not how it is narrated, there could be kernels of truth in it, and something of this would have happened, some sort of this would have happened, and multiple versions have come on it. So whether it is true or not is a very, on one way, it is a very silly question.
Yeah.
Whether it is true or not.
Sure.
Also, in another way, it is a very difficult question to answer, because unless you know what is true, how will you say something is true or not? You don't know what is the truth itself. No?
Sure.
So with what will you compare it to say something is false? There are multiple truths.
So this is not archaeologically verifiable, I would imagine.
This is, as of now, we have not got major proof as far my knowledge is concerned. We have got proofs of civilizations existing, Janapadas existing in these places, at least in some part of it. But how does it matter? Because Ramayana and Mahabharata were never told as historic narrative. Indians never cared for history. And I think it's a very good thing. Because the countries with less history will have less conflict. It is, it's a very Western thing to think and worry about history and talk about the historic wrongs. Whatever wrongs would have happened, how are we responsible for that now? And how are you going to correct what wrongs or rights happened thousands of years ago? When first you have to correct what are the wrongs happening now.
Yeah.
Unless you do that, there is no point in talking 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, 25,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago, this happened and that happened.
True.
So Indians, India as a culture and Hinduism, when I say Hinduism, it encompasses, as a word I am using, it encompasses all different forms of religion, including Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism, Atheism, Charvaga, Yoga, all kind of darshanas. Way of life. Most of them are bothered about history at all. There is a reason for that, because there is no beginning or end for us.
Right.
There is no beginning of the time or end of the time. It is cyclic in nature.
Yes.
So when there is cyclic in nature, everything has happened, will happen again. And we also believe in the multiverse concept. Whatever is happening, it is happening somewhere else also in different formats. The world is an illusion. This is how we had. It is only when the Westerners came, and they came with the baggage of crusades, and they came with the baggages of their form of telling history. They got a lot of good things they would have brought, but some of the bad things what they brought is this kind of rigidity into our thinking. And we became historically conscious. And if you really think, the countries which become historically very conscious, which was a country which became historically very, very conscious. You see that they were all the pioneers of colonization, or they were the pioneers of fascism, like Hitler, who talked about wrong of history, or you are so attached to only one form of thought and one way of life. So these are the civilizations. If you are talking history, let us talk history. These are the civilizations which went for crusades and fights and wars and other things. No? The cultures which rarely bothered about history, these kind of, there will be other conflict, but we don't have this conflict also to add on the other kind of wrongs which is there in the society. Now what has happened, we have got suddenly so conscious of the history. There is a reason why Indian or Hinduism never celebrated kings,
Right.
and rather it celebrated poets, saints.
Yeah.
We celebrate Shankaracharya. Who was the king of Shankaracharya when Shankaracharya was there? Who were the kings? Hardly any people know. Some researchers will say this king, that king, this chera, that chera. But we don't know who was the king when Shankaracharya was born. We don't know.
Right.
Kalidasa, we say Vikramaditya, but we don't know which Vikramaditya. We celebrate Kalidasa. We celebrate so many of the poets. Who were the king, who were the conquerors, who killed how many people, who conquered which land. We were never bothered about it. We were bothered about the poets, we were bothered about the artists, we were bothered about the saints, we were bothered about the philosophy, the way of life, the culture, the art. The moment you talk about history, suddenly you start glorifying kings, and I don't think one king is better than the another for all people. Maybe my king might not killed my people, he would have gone and killed some other people. And their king would have come and killed my people. That is all politics is about. Depending on whichever century you are, the way the politics played might be changed. That is why Indians had disdain for the kings and others. If at all a king is celebrated, perhaps Ram is celebrated not because of his kingship. He is celebrated because he had given away his kingship and gone to the forest. It is his tyag, it's sacrifice which is celebrated. Another king which you celebrate is Harishchandra. Again, it is a sacrifice we celebrate. So Indians traditionally, rarely, we didn't even know about Ashoka until the Britishers dug it out. No? We say he as a big emperor. We didn't even know about him. You don't, now people are digging out. Rajaraja Chola is supposed to be a great king. His samadhi is somewhere. We don't know where it is. Where are the palaces? The temples are still standing. Where are the great palaces of Indian kings? Where are they gone? Where is the Chola palace? Chola temples are still standing for 1,000 years. Where are the Chola palaces?
Right.
So, how many of the temple sites, holy sites, people know about Surdas, people know about Tulsidas. We don't know who ruled who won the war at that time. In traditional Indian telling of history, we know all the myths of all these saints and whatever is there in the Puranas. There is a reason why it was done so. So the kind of historical narrative we are trying to create will lead to conflict. So it's better to forget history and concentrate on the present and work for the future.
So I'm very, very happy to hear that, because if you are, writing all the scripts and working so much on TV and film, then I hope some of these things that you're saying will now pervade popular culture and influence people. But I did want to move to the one big thing which we want to understand. So you've written so many books, you've written 7-8 screenplays, you had a full-time job for the first half, you've written a kid's book, you're writing a column. How do you get such a high volume of output? Tell us about your normal day and your writing process, because we are all aspiring writers in this group, so we'll want inspiration from you.
First thing is that I don't keep a target. I don't have a to-do list.
Okay.
Not only for this, not for anything. I don't have a to-do list. I don't think that I'll have to finish this, finish that, do this, do that. I write when I feel. So there will be many days when I don't write. I don't feel guilty about it. I write in spurts. I write early in the morning, generally. But I am thinking about the stories as I am walking. So my writing, I don't write more than 2 to 3 hours in a day.
Right.
And that is enough to create whatever I have created. So I would have written like 700 hours of television, 4 OTT shows on high pressure, 14 books printed, 18 books written, another 4 coming.
Wow.
And 600, 700 columns. So these would have been like maybe 20, 30 lakh words. I don't know. I not counted. But this can be done by working 2 to 3 hours. So even if you are in a day job, like first 5, 6 years, I was in a day job, high pressure job. Still, I could always extract 3 hours of time in the morning. So I'm a morning person. So 4 o'clock, 4:15, I wake up to 7, I get time to write. That's enough for most of the writing. Only one tip if I say is, the more you stay away from social media, the more time you will get. When I started, this much problem was not there. Even I have the problem, I'm also struggling, but I have ways to, at least my wife takes away the phone and locks it up. So that way, there are methods to find time.
If I tell my wife, she'll be the happiest person on earth. because my wife doesn't even have a WhatsApp account. So cool. That's so interesting. Very impressive. You
But
make it sound so
I
easy.
cannot afford, I cannot afford to have stay away also. But
Yeah.
if you see recently, I'm very, very less active. I stopped fighting with idiots in Facebooks or in Twitter, because I found that one day I took a count. I was very active some time back, fighting with each and everyone in WhatsApp and Facebook and WhatsApp groups, and
Yeah.
with all WhatsApp uncles who suddenly send
Yes.
WhatsApp about atom bomb in Kurukshetra and whatnot. So you keep fighting with all those people, and the number of words I took a count. I could have written another 6, 7 books. So the monetary value of it and the artistic value of it is huge.
That's brilliant.
So if you do an audit of how many words you type on your WhatsApp and other things, no, already all of you would have written 5, 6 books by now.
I
I'm sure of
actually,
it. Most of you, at
yes,
least.
yes. I'm suddenly feeling ashamed of myself.
No, I am also ashamed. I also spend a lot of time. But this is because you are fighting with the AI and
Yes.
highly paid scientists who want your attention.
Yeah.
So it is going to be an uphill task. But anybody starting writing now, this is going to be the biggest challenge, both as a writer and also as a reader.
Yeah.
Readership also is coming down, and attention span also is coming down. So the publishers are insisting on smaller books. I don't know whether I can publish an Asura now of 500,
Mm,
600 pages. It's sad.
mm, Very sad.
Uh, because
Definitely.
people will pay for a stale bread in airport for 100 rupees, but will not spend 200 rupees from an airport store to buy a book.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
That's a pity.
A stale samosa, they will
Mm.
pay 300, 350 rupees. And the most horrible coffee, they will pay 300, 600 rupees. And popcorn, 500 rupees in theater, but not 200 rupees for the book. For review also, authors will have to give it for free. Uh,
So the next question I had was how you started writing and why you wrote what you did. So what pushed you to write? You're clearly extremely passionate about your writing, and it's been driving you even before you got published. You're saying that you've been writing for a while. So and you started off when you were, of course, still at Indian Oil and still, extremely busy. So what did you start with, and why did you write what you chose to write?
One thing is, one of my nasty bosses pushed me to writing.
Oh, nice.
Uh, that is
He
also
wasn't
a
nasty. He was a heaven sent.
yeah. Now I have a photo of him and do arti of. I owe everything to such people.
Yeah.
Uh, See, it is not that as a person that person was nasty or anything, but when people get into powerful positions, they think you have to do something. The moment you are out of it, these people are very nice.
Yeah.
So what happened? This many people in corporate will face it because they are being pressurized by their bosses. We don't know about that. It's not judging anyone. But what happens in corporate life? Often it happens that you start hating life, hating your job, and just doing it for because you have to pay the bills and run the family.
Right.
I always had wanted to write, wanted to draw, but I was never getting time. Never getting time in the sense it was so cut on work, even though it was a PSU. If people who have worked in PSU will know that the people who work will work like asses, and
Yeah.
there will be people who will not be working. But so those people who work will be taking the work of all those people who are not working.
Right.
So what happens is this kind of it's a fallacy to say that PSU are done and nobody works. A lot of people work very, very hard.
Sure.
And some of the jobs are very critical also. So what happens is there was no time. So that was when I started waking up early, like my childhood, what my father had taught. So as a rebellion, I used to wake up late
Okay.
because my father used to force me to wake up early. But by this time this happened, I started waking up early. I didn't want to go to office, and I wanted to do something which gives some calmness to my mind. And I went back to writing rather. And I went to painting also. I did a lot of painting. I did cartooning. I started first writing in Malayalam.
Okay.
Small magazines started publishing, which was encouragement enough. But then I thought that I'm getting 50 rupees, 100 rupees. I just want to get out of this job. And I want to live a life doing what I love rather than just working because my mother had a very great sense of humor. She had studied only up to 7th standard. She's no more. But at that time, She had asked me, why are you still working if you so hate your job?
Okay.
So I told that there is jobs, there is a security here. It's a government job. It's a security here, and I get the salary. Everything gets taken care. Medical is taken care. So immediately she said, "Go to jail. All these things will be taken care of. Lot of security also will be
Okay.
the best place we have got security." So that got me. I laughed. That got me thinking. Why am I chasing security? The moment you start doing certain things, what happens is, so I didn't immediately come out because I didn't have that kind of courage. In case somebody is working and telling, I didn't have that kind of courage because I don't come from a very affluent family or anything. From very, I'd studied taking loan and I came from nothing. So I didn't want to come out, but I decided that to hell with this career.
Right.
I'm going to put only 9 to 5 job. I'm not going to do anything extra for this. And I'm going to spend every time improving myself and writing what I love, doing what I want. What they're going to do maximum, they're going to transfer me somewhere which I don't like, which they did. Or they will create some trouble. They won't give me promotion. They are not going to send me out because that's one advantage I'm having in the PSU. But when I moved from there, that 3-4 years while I was publishing, it was very tough. 6 years it took me to write. So it was a long journey. Another
Right.
2-3 years it went. Almost a decade of struggle was there before it got published. So when it got published, then things started becoming better in the. It became a big hit, and I got transferred to a department where the bosses were kind enough to allow me to pursue this thing.
Oh,
So I
nice.
had good phases and bad phases in the same organization.
Sure.
But by that time, opportunities came, Bahubali happened, this thing happened. So I had got some confidence that I can live with my writing alone and not depend on the job. And then I took a long leave. And when it ended, I put my paper and came out.
Nice.
So the same the organization, as an organization, it was quite good. There was certain people were nasty at certain part of time, and certain people were excellently good, and I'm very grateful to those people, to both of them, both kind of people,
Sure.
because both of them assisted in the journey.
Right.
But it was a push. I'm just not telling this to say somebody is bad or anything. These are all good human beings as such. Circumstances make people act in certain way, but these the same circumstances give us opportunity to seek what we want also if we use it, or at
Right.
least that was my experience.
Great, great. So I have one last question and then we'll open it up to the chat, folks. My last question is really because we are all aspiring writers, we're all looking for that big break. So how long were you writing before you got your first book published? And tell us about that struggle and that publishing journey and that first publishing.
10
That's a huge
years,
start,
18,
right?
10 years, 18 rejections.
Okay, wow.
It was easy for me in the sense that I had a secure job.
Right.
Whatever problems are there or not, I had a decent job. So I should not say this is some miracle and did some heroic thing or anything.
Right.
But only thing I decided was I will not self-publish at that time. I had nothing against self-publication. A lot of great books were self-published, and maybe it is an easy way also. I took this decision because I was not confident. So I wanted somebody to validate, some professional to validate it. So I thought that every time somebody rejects it, even if it could be a small publisher, it didn't matter. But if a publisher is willing to put their money on it, whenever they're going to willing to put a money on it, then only somebody is seeing some commercial value in my book, some thing of success in my book. Because I'm not writing for myself. In the sense, I am writing for myself, but I'm not publishing it for myself, right? Otherwise, I'll write a diary and keep it at home. I'm publishing it so that a lot of people will read it. So if a publisher who is in this industry is not finding confidence in my work, not that they are all great, but at least they are not finding it. Not that they know everything. A lot of books have come out self-published and surprised a lot of editors. Nobody can predict it.
True.
But at least I took this as a test. So every time it came back, I rewrote.
Okay.
I rewrote, tried to fix it. Sometimes the story became worse than what it was earlier. Then again, I rewrote after one or two. This happens. We don't know. No, I have no clue what works and what doesn't work. Even now, I don't have a clue. It's an experiment. So it took that many years, almost a decade, But after that, but it was worth it, is what I feel. Because otherwise, what happens to many writers get a first book right.
Right.
So they are very passionate about it.
Sure.
Getting the next book right is more important, and getting the book after that right is more important.
Right.
To have consistency becomes an issue, because once two things can happen. Once you are one, people can get exhausted after getting all this struggle. Second, your book you read, 99% chances that hardly anyone reads it.
Right.
There's a 99% chance, or perhaps more than that.
Sure.
Hardly anyone will read it. So there are people whose second book have become a hit, fifth book have become a hit, 10th book have become a hit. There is nothing like, there's not a film where first film is flop and nobody calls you.
Right.
So your film book can be hit at the 20th book also.
Right.
There have been writers like that. But what happens is people give up. Like Ruskin Bond says that after his first book, 10 years he took for the next book.
Right.
A person who is passionate and who has been writing for the last 70 years, when he went through that phase.
Right.
So, getting second book out as soon as the first book is ready, or even if it is rejected, no, starting to write the second book is very important. And the third book after that, and the fourth book after that. Because many of the books which I publish now were written long before.
Right. Right. I got
When
it.
I was waiting for this, in the sense they were not complete, but I had the story idea. I had written half of it, part of it, whenever the idea strikes. So I'm drawing from whatever I created over so many decades. That is why if suddenly a book is required or show is required, this thing is required, I draw it and give it from that bank.
All right. Cool. So we open it out to questions now from the group. So there's already a lot of questions in the chat. I'm reading the first one. There have always been works of literature about the negative characters like Indravada, Kavya by Michael Madhusudan Dutt, and also Duryodhan by Kaka Vidhate, which is 30 years ago. So what do you think was the reason that your books found the success that they have found? This is from Ram.
Honestly, it is because it was in English. Because, as you said, there are a lot of books. Most of the Jnanpith Award winning books in every language you see, they're either based on Ramayana or Mahabharata. Not all, but many of them.
Right.
Many of them, whether it is in Malayalam, whether it is in Odia, whether it is in Marathi or many other languages, Bengali and all, lot of them are inspired or are directly this thing of. But what happens in India, we are our translations are not up to the mark, except a few honorable exceptions. So these books don't reach the kind of audience. So that is the reason why I shifted from Malayalam to English. My Malayalam is still better. I studied in a ordinary school. My English was very bad. Still it is. My kids keep correcting my accent in English because they are all studied in good schools. No, not unlike my school was good, but it was like a country school, government school. So English I shifted because of this reason, so that it will reach. So Asura is now in 16 languages, whereas many great books they are yet to reach people. They are in one or two languages or three languages, so the reach is very less. That could be one reason, perhaps.
Sure, that's a really interesting answer. I hadn't expected that. Shampa has a question. Editing, how many drafts before you got the right version accepted?
Asura, almost 18 drafts. And after that, after acceptance, another 3 drafts.
And in your normal books now, when you're writing, how much do you edit?
At least 4 to 5 drafts it goes, minimum.
Right, great, awesome.
And sometimes I myself scrap half of what I had written.
Right.
And write it again.
Sure. Great. Next question, when the stories are in the DNAs of the readers since centuries, how do you deal with the element of familiarity, which poses a threat to the reader's interest and novelty? Sure, I understand.
No, I am thankful that it is there in the DNA of the people. Otherwise, it will be all without context. No, I say Ravana and people ask Ravana who, then there is no relevance of Asura.
Right.
So that is an advantage actually. So I am not shifting the plot. No, I am shifting the point of view.
Sure.
Just giving them the voice.
Great, thank you. Yeah. Next question, what do you focus on most when you're writing your first draft? What aspects of the draft, in your experience, are best developed on rewrites? So do you have such a separation? I don't know.
I just write the story first. I don't care about the language, grammar, anything.
Okay.
Mostly, if I want to write, I sometimes dictate so that I don't have time to edit.
Right.
I just dictate to my this thing and then later type it out so that I get the story out of my mind as fast as possible.
Right.
The rest of the things can wait.
Excellent. Next question. Can you share the process for writing scripts, especially OTT, starting from idea onwards?
Oh
It's a
my!
big question.
I need a 1 week of class for this.
Yes, I would imagine.
I will simply say it is like writing a novel. OTT, unlike GEC shows or films,
Mhm.
OTT is very similar to novel.
Okay. Okay.
That's the only thing which is similar to novel.
I would reach out to you after this session because we've not had any time and invite you to come to the retreat. And if you ever do choose to come, then maybe what's her name? Ritu can join and learn something from you. But I would love, so that is a separate conversation, but we'd love to host you.
Definitely.
Sachin Dev is asking, what genre do you currently working on? Do you think mytho fantasy as an Indian favorite genre has run out of steam?
Last 5,000 years it has not run out. So I don't know why it should run out.
Yes, that's a great answer. But I noticed that you mentioned in your bio that there is also a show that you're creating, which is a crime show, right?
Yeah, I write. I have a crime show. I have spy thriller. I write in all, not in books, but
Okay.
shows and other things I write. Why? Because books, publishers will publish mostly only what you are successful at. They don't experiment much. Even though it's a much smaller industry. This is my grouse to publishers. I keep telling Westland, Penguin, Harper, whoever publishes me.
Right.
This they laugh, but they don't listen.
Right.
But films, OTTs, they are hungry for topic.
Right.
And writer is not that important
Right.
in that.
Right. Yeah.
So I can write, I can experiment anything in that. And if my writing is good, it doesn't matter my success was in mythology or my success was in love story or my success
Right.
was in anything else.
Excellent. Vasundhara has a question. She's saying, please tell us more about your current work on Nala Damayanti. I had fallen in love with the story when I heard it first as an experiment at an experimental theater in Mumbai.
Vasundhara, please read my book.
Sahi jawab. Okay, next question. Which form is your favorite? Screenplay, book, newspaper, column, and preferred language of satisfaction of writing?
There are multiple answers for it. My favorite would be poetry. I don't get paid for poetry. Nobody reads. I read poetry, but nobody reads mine, and nobody publishes mine. Favorite is poetry. Then comes short story, especially in Malayalam. I get least paid for that. Then comes short stories in English. Very difficult to publish.
Yeah.
Presently in India.
Yeah.
And I'm yet to master it. I'm learning it, the art of short story writing.
But sorry, I'm going to jump in. But for somebody with your stature, it shouldn't be hard to publish. I mean, you should be able to easily publish short stories. It's usually first-time authors who struggle with short stories in English.
Everyone struggles. Everyone struggles because short story. I will have to be after the publisher. Otherwise, publisher will be after me to write the next book. So short story. See, people don't short story as an art form. No, in India we don't have avenue, especially in English. Right. How many English magazines or papers have short story?
True.
One Woman Sara is there, perhaps. Reader's Digest may do. One or two are there and not very widely read also. So your avenue, there is no New Yorker or New York Times or anything here, no? We don't have anywhere to publish short stories.
True.
Then comes novels, which I get decently paid. So I love that. Screenplay as an art, I like it and I get most paid for it. Newspaper column, I just write to keep myself relevant.
Okay.
So when the check comes, it is always screenplay, which I love most that day.
That's an honest reply. So Ritu has a question. How do you develop a detachment from stories to be able to discard or rewrite them?
Give them time. Don't be in a hurry to. I am editing stories which I wrote 8 years ago, 9 years ago now, and rewriting them.
Right.
Because give them time, the stories will grow.
Right.
And evolve.
Sure. Sure. Next question, and then I have one of my own. How much of a say do you like to have on the visual representation of your stories, especially in movies? So do you have?
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I can have, and I'll be out of job.
Okay. So explain that to us,
See,
please.
when you write screenplays, no,
Hmm.
whatever is your whatever is your the stature which you have in your mind about yourself,
Mm.
it's all false, sir. My
Mm.
experience, I'm saying. There is no stature for the writer
Right.
because it's an industry. You will have to adjust. You are not the king when you are writing the screenplay. You are just
Right.
laying the foundation.
Right. Right.
So it is like the draftsman
Right.
telling the architect that no, I'm not liking the way you are making the building. The architect is a director. So
Okay.
that ego clash we should not have. The
Okay.
king is director, and if it is OTT, the king is the channel.
Right.
Whichever is the OTT channel and the showrunner is doing it. They will
Sure.
ask you what you want. You fight, you are out of it. So
Okay.
you do it with a kind of compromise, and this is true for any artist working in it.
Right.
Like you are a classical singer,
Mm.
you cannot go and do 5 hours of raga there. No, you'll have to sing in 5 minutes.
Sure. Sure.
The
Got
song.
it.
Same way for a writer also.
Got it. So one thing I was reading Vanara and it felt like watching a show. It's like I was taken from one tense moment to another, and pretty much always I was on the edge of my seat. So I'm wondering, does your experience with script writing have anything to do with that? I mean, has the engagement with the world of films and shows changed your writing from the Asura days, or have you always
No,
written like?
Asura is also very visual. Actually, what happened is my storytelling. It was my disadvantage that my English
Mm-hmm.
is very normal.
Okay.
I don't have the great flow of English like my country cousins Shashi Tharoor or Arundhati Roy or anyone like that.
Right.
So, because I came to English very late,
Sure.
so my command over English is very less. So I wanted when I had started writing, I thought that it's a very important point which I believe all writers should know. Also, we are now living in a visual world,
Right.
whereas many of the awards, literary awards, they are stuck in the old world of poetry.
Right.
So from poetry, the novels came.
Right.
So the language, lyrical language, the award committees and other people, know, or the old timers, what they call literary fiction and whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is,
Mm-hmm.
most of them give importance to the flow and beauty of language, lyrical language. It doesn't matter whether there is any story or anybody understands it or not.
Right.
If language is good, the book is good. That is how many of the people or critics think about it. But
Right.
critics are not going to buy your ration, right?
Right. Right.
So readers who are going to do it.
Sure.
So they can keep their awards if it comes, let it come. But essentially, we live in a visual world for the last 100 years. So I developed a style of visual writing,
Right.
even from Asura days. Maybe it
Right.
has become sharpened as I write more like Nalada Mehendi plays like a script,
Okay.
scene by scene, scene by scene, scene by scene. Because I've written more screenplays than this. The
Mm.
advantage I got was my books came into the attention of all the major directors of the country. I don't have nobody can accuse nepotism about me. I know no one. I used to know no one in Hollywood, Bollywood or Hollywood or Tollywood or whatever wood it is.
Right.
It came to their attention and they found that it is a visual storytelling like a script
Right.
from Asura days. So Asura, the number of directors who wanted to make Asura as a film, which is never going to become a film in our country, I'm sure of it.
Mm-hmm.
But he is the who is who of Indian industry.
Okay.
Almost all directors from Rajamouli to Shekhar Kapoor to Maniratnam to everyone you had some discussion or other or some Rajinikanth to everyone, no, Nagarjuna, everyone from the film industry and actors, they have found some merit in Asura and wanted to have a film out of it.
Mm.
But since the topic is like that, they have given me something else to write. So Bahubali happened, this thing happened, that thing happened. So it's the visual storytelling which brought me into the script. I didn't go to a script school or I didn't go to a film school to study script.
Interesting. Very interesting. Thank you. That's awesome. Two questions, and then we will probably call it a day. While you were doing so many things, you just said that nobody publishes short stories. So Neeta is asking, why don't you come up with a magazine like New Yorker in India?
The magazines like India Today to Reader's Digest and all are struggling to have. So I don't have that kind of deep pockets. And I don't know whether there will be any readership also.
Right.
How many people you find just an experiment, thought experiment, no, not a thought experiment. If you're flying,
Right.
or if you had flown in the last 3-4 weeks, or you're going to fly in the next 3-4 weeks, see how many people in the airport or inside the flight have a book.
Yeah. True.
How
Yes.
many have a magazine?
Yeah.
And how many have a mobile phone?
It's very sad. I completely
Sad.
know what you're saying. Very sad. Yes, definitely. Definitely. But there is another
And
follow-up
I'm not
question.
discouraging.
Yes.
I feel happy when they see mobile also. No, so I see which show they are watching. So for me,
You've
I
got
don't
all the
consider
bases
myself
covered.
as a novelist.
Right.
I don't consider myself as a novelist. Don't limit yourself as I'm a storyteller. So I will tell story whichever way. If it is through puppetry is tomorrow good, I'll tell it through puppetry.
Right.
If it is through OTT, I'll tell it through OTT. When GEC was big, I told it through GEC. That's all.
Right. So the one more question is that if you had to recommend your one book to start with for somebody who's getting into Anand Neelakantan's writing, which one do you think would be a good book to start?
If you are an avid reader, start with Asura.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a beginning reader, start with Nala, the main thing. More fun and comical and easier to read. Asura is a deeper book.
And where does Vanara sit in the middle of all that? I'm reading that right now.
Vanara is in the middle of both.
Between the two. All right. I'm really enjoying it. So I can't.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
really liking it. All right, folks. So thank you so much.
One small tip, as you learn more and as you become a slightly better and better in your skill, the number of words you use will come down. So book size also will start coming down. You can see it in most of the authors across You will be able to tell the same thing with more impact through smaller books.
Right.
So ultimately, when you are a great writer, maybe your silence will speak. That should be the logical conclusion, right?
And Ram has a question in the shelf behind you. Is the book next to Ajaya Darashiko? He's asking. This.
No, I don't know. This is collected place.
Collected.
No, the next shelf. The next shelf. Yeah, that Ajay. The next shelf. The shelf after that.
Okay.
This one.
Do you have a copy of Darashiko?
I have it, but I have to hunt it out. It's a play in verse, and I think it has been written by Rajmohan Gandhi. I thought it sold only 5 copies, and I was one of the few people who bought it. So which is why I asked that question.
Okay.
This shelf you are saying, I don't know which.
No, on the other side, sir. On the other side.
This side.
On your right
this
side.
One? This side.
On your right side, I think. Yeah. So yeah. That book. That's exactly that book. Yeah.
No, it's not that.
Okay.
It's a man among.
Okay.
Maharaja.
And the last is an observation now, not a question, but people seem to read more papers, but book readership is low. So that's true. I agree. But I just wanted to thank you so much, Anand. It's been wonderful having you. It's been an absolute pleasure. And it's refreshing to talk to somebody who's so candid and so open. And for me, it was reassuring to hear. I've heard you in a couple of lit fests, but I was standing in the back. I was at the Delhi Book Fair when you were on the, in the middle area at the dais and all. But thank you again. Very, very nice to speak with you. And I will be in touch with you and invite you to the retreat, and hopefully we can, work something out. That will be a pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you so much.